Well, you read the title of the video. You know, I got hearing aids, and this is the vlog where I talk about it a bit. Um, this is for people who want to know a little bit more about me or my continued saga with my ears. A lot of you know this, but I'll share again anyway, just to recap. In January of 2023, I had surgery on my right ear to correct a large hole in the eardrum. Now, I was one of those kids in the 80s and 90s who always had ear infections and lots of antibiotics. And so the doctors and my parents did what they felt was best at the time, and they put tubes in my ears. And they did that 3 times. And, I can't say if that actually helped with what they were going for, but the holes eventually stopped healing. And I just remember some point in my kind of early to mid childhood the surgeries transitioning from putting tubes in to, hey, you have holes in your eardrum and we should probably repair that. So I had eardrum reconstructive surgery 3 times between the age of like 7 or 8 and about 17. And then honestly, I gave up on it. I completely ignored my ears. I refused to think about them. I refused to go to an ENT. I think I was just over it slash traumatized. And that continued basically from about the age of 18 all the way until about my early 30s. And then I gradually started going to the ear doctor again, kind of wrapping my head around, hey, this is something I probably need to keep up with and I need to be responsible with it. And then last year I had the surgery. But unfortunately, the surgery ended up failing and the drum perforated again about 2.5 or 3 months later. And honestly, I was and am still very bummed about that. But I'm also really proud that I tried. Because again, like this was a long thing for me, right? And just going from a place of I'm too traumatized to think about it and acknowledge it to not only going to the ENT regularly again, but also eventually deciding to try the surgery again. Like that was a huge personal growth thing for me. And I'm still really proud that I tried. But after the surgery was deemed a failure, once I realized that it reperforated, I was left with this feeling of, okay, what do I do now? And the ENT offered different surgeries and referring me to a specialist. I basically told him, I think I'm done with surgery. Like, I'm good. Thank you. But then there was still this decision of like, do I do anything else? Now, I've been mildly to moderately hard of hearing for a really long time because of these perforated eardrums. And I've known that, and it's been a running gag all my life. Like, family and friends just know to speak up around me. With roommates or my husband, I would pretty frequently say, like, what? Huh? And I would mishear things. And it was just like a running gag. But I decided to start thinking about hearing aids initially because I noticed I was saying, what, huh? Around my daughter a lot. And I wouldn't say that the child is soft spoken necessarily, to be clear, but it was just enough of a difference versus like a more booming adult voice that I felt like I was missing out on some conversations with her and like making the conversations more difficult with her. And I started thinking, I am kind of a seminar geek. Wouldn't it be nice if I could go to a seminar and actually hear the speaker from anything but the first or second row? So I started kind of entertaining this thought. Then in the summer of last year, so a while ago, I went and did the whole appointment at the ENT office doing the hearing aid consult because I figured, all right, I had the surgery. I paid my big out of pocket max for the insurance policy for the year. If I'm going to do hearing aids, this is the year to do it. Only to be informed that hearing aids are oftentimes not covered by health insurance here in the United States, which boggled my mind, especially for me, because in my mind, I'm like, hold on. I have a physical, structural, like abnormality or damage that makes me hard of hearing. Doesn't that constitute medical insurance? Apparently not. So I left that appointment really frustrated. And I remember, like, frankly, crying in the car because I was so frustrated. And it's such a broken system in America where we live. And I was feeling really defeated and really frustrated. And then I was like, I had this icky feeling of, okay, do I want to spend $3,000 to $5,000 on a pair of hearing aids? Well, I've lived without them for this long, right? Like maybe I just keep doing what I'm doing, but then I would feel guilty because I was trying to cheapen out on something regarding my health, and that felt icky to me. Anyway, so there was a lot of processing of that, and it honestly took me a couple of months of processing to wrap my head around. Yes, the system is broken. There's nothing I can do about it at the time. I'm going to pivot and I'm going to look into other options. And I found the Costco Hearing Aid Center. I'm already a big fan of Costco. So this is just further proof that they're awesome. But I decided to at least do a consultation and look into it. And long story short, picked up these bad boys about 2 weeks ago. And it has been a very weird adjustment. Um, so I came home. I got them on a Monday. I came home and I had all of these goals for the week, for my work week. I had 3 YouTube videos that I wanted to film. I had some reels that I wanted to do. I had a webinar that I wanted to finish and then like actually get filmed and up. I had all of these great ambitions and I got none of them done because I realized after the fact this was a lot. I don't know if you could see them even. You're just going to have to trust me on this one. It's there. It's just very well concealed. But I realized I think my nervous system was truly overstimulated. Not only am I hearing the world louder, but I'm hearing my own voice much louder. And I'm hearing so much more background noise than I ever did before. The world is a noisy place. It's nuts. Like just going to Costco is deafening now by comparison. I'm walking around the house like a detective, hearing things for the first time. I asked my husband, "What is that?" And he's like, "The HVAC." So I'm apparently hearing the HVAC unit for the first time ever. We were getting in bed and I still had my hearing aids in. This was like the first or second night. I had my hearing aids in still. We climb in bed and I'm like, "It is noisy in here. Is it always this noisy?" Because he had a fan running on low and we have um, like a air filter running on low at night. And he's like, "Yeah, that's how it always is." I'm like, "Okay, good as gold." And then I couldn't hear it again. So I was happy. But yeah, it's very bizarre. And honestly, in the beginning, I didn't love it. I was thinking, ooh, am I just going to hear way more background noise than I ever did before? But now 2 weeks out, I can say I'm going to keep them. I think this is better. I realized when I go on my morning walk, I can hear the birds so much better. I was missing out on like 90% of bird calls all my life, and I just didn't know. Now, when I walk in my own neighborhood, I feel like I'm walking through a teeming tropical rainforest of birds, and it's so cool. And like, I think I'm hearing people better. It's a little hard to say, but I think I'm saying what, huh, less. But even for YouTube here, it's been really, really good for me because I've realized when I'm filming, if there's background noise, like the kids next door are playing, or there's, a noisy truck that drives down my street, now I can hear that noise and I could turn off my camera and I can wait for the noise to pass before I resume filming. So I think it actually might be a good thing for the quality of my videos. Maybe I had background noise in my videos and I just didn't know for all these years. Who knows what else I've been missing out on? But yeah, it's been a really interesting 2 weeks. Like I said, I frankly, the first week I got them kind of sucked because I was so overstimulated. I got nothing done. I was very lethargic. I took a nap on the floor of my office one day. It was a weird week. And I sort of had to mourn the productivity that I was going to have that week. But I decided, in kind of an act of self compassion, quite frankly, I decided that it was clear that my body needed some downtime and needed some space. And that was all there was to it. So I decided to give my body what it needed in that moment. And that was rest, or at least a much slower, less productive work week. So I think just the act of going through with the surgery, the act of getting the hearing aids, the act of allowing myself a week or two to really get used to them before I talked about it publicly and before I really like got back into my productivity routine. I think that all of these things were really gifts in a way because it has taught me even more about self-compassion. And honestly, too, there was another element that I didn't mention at the appropriate point in the story. So I mentioned I had the surgery, the eardrum reperforated, and then I went to check out hearing aids. There was a period of time in between there for a couple of months that I was debating it, but it wasn't because I'm worried about people judging me or the look of it or anything like that. I had to really come to grips with this feeling that getting hearing aids was giving up. That felt really yucky. And I just kind of had to think about that for a while, right? Like, this has been a really long journey. I mean, I had my first ear surgery when I was 2 years old. This is kind of all I've ever known in a weird way. Like, I was the kid in school who had ear surgeries. I was the kid in school whose well intentioned mother called and made the teachers make an announcement to please be quiet around Nicole's ears because she just had surgery. So all the kids loved me at recess that year because for a week or so they had to be quiet during recess. Um, I was the kid who couldn't go underwater and I had to wear cotton and Vaseline earplugs all my life. So I think the surgery failing and acknowledging that, and then also acknowledging that maybe I'm done with surgery and the most kind thing I can do for myself is to get hearing aids. Like, that was all a journey too. And it's still weird to talk about that idea of like, this is giving up. But again, I decided that it was the kindest thing that I could do for myself was allow myself to hear and allow myself to experience that despite the surgical path not working out for me. So it's kind of like the conclusion to a 37-year weird, well, I guess 35 if you subtract out the first 2 years of my life, that the conclusion of a really weird 35-year story. And it's kind of the only story I've ever known with regards to this. So anyway, um, like I said, I don't imagine that this will be clinically insightful for most people, but if part of your journey is learning how to take care of yourself and how to be kind to yourself and the role of self-compassion and self-care, like if that's a big part of your journey, then maybe this vlog was clinically relevant and actionable for you. Let me know in the comments. Certainly if you have thoughts, I'm all ears, pun intended. But also, are you on any sort of self compassion or self care journey? Has that played a role in what you're dealing with in your life? I think it probably is a piece of the puzzle for most people. It's just a matter of how big a piece of the puzzle it might be. But I'm curious if any of you have had any revelations or stories regarding self care and self compassion and self love. And I will look forward to reading them in the comments. I don't read a lot of YouTube comments these days. I'm just a little bit too busy and a little bit too over people on the internet being mean. But I will make a point to visit the comment section of this video because I think that probably the people who watch this are just the people who care about me on some level or another. And I would like to think you're not going to leave anything nasty. So anyway, I think that that's all I've got. But yeah, proud new owner of 2 hearing aids. Thank you, Costco. Definitely paid for our membership this year.